Am I going back to America? Not anytime soon. No, not anytime soon. I had a friend come visit me this past weekend, and he was so happy to see me, so excited, that we had made it. He was a part of the journey of myself and my girls when we were in the US preparing to move back to the continent, and he was just so overwhelmed with emotion to see me in like the flesh, because he does watch some of the content that I share online, and sometimes we can share the best of us, share our highlight reel, and I'm guilty of that for sure. I think I'm a bit more transparent here on YouTube, but on social media general, like, people like to see pretty things. But I recognize that this is a journey that is not linear, and we go through a lot in this process deciding to move abroad. But in this video, I want to talk about the pros and cons of moving to South Africa. And spoiler alert, there are more pros than cons. So if you're new to the channel, welcome. My name is Ashley. On this channel, Ashley in Africa, I talk about my experience moving, living, and doing business here on the continent. I share my journey of love, motherhood, and entrepreneurship as I am currently living in Johannesburg, South Africa. I'm also the creator of a membership-only community called the Africa Investors Academy, a community for entrepreneurs and investors who are growing their businesses here on the continent and investing in projects to retire early. So if that sounds interesting to you, please be sure to subscribe to the channel, leave me a comment below, and let me know how this content is really resonating with you and how it's been helpful. All right, so I've got some notes. If you're not new, welcome back to all of my South African family. The community is growing. Everybody in the US, people in Kenya, Tanzania, welcome, karibu, asante sana. So grateful for everyone that continues to like this content, share this content, comment below, and add value to the conversation, because we're a community. I don't know it all, okay? I'm just sharing my experience, and I'm grateful to have you here on that journey. All right, so in this video, we're gonna talk about the pros and the cons. I think it's important to give people perspective, right? I have done a lot of like spiritual work, subconscious work, mental health work. So I tend to skew at the higher vibration. I tend to skew at the space where I recognize that all things are working out for my divine good. I tend to live in this place of positivity and abundance. And so sometimes that can come across as not sharing the cons, right? Because I don't really do that. Like, I experience the cons, I recognize that they exist, but for the most part, I radiate abundance, love, prosperity, higher vibration, because that's just the space that I live in. That's who I am, and that's what I really enjoy being in. And Africa has enough like negative content out there. So if you're looking for negative, like, you can find it. This is the internet. You can find anything you're looking for. But in this corner of the world, we really share the pros, right? And because the pros outweigh the cons for me, this is home, right? You won't see me back in America anytime soon until they curb the gun legislation and then reparations need to come through. And what else? Reparations and an apology, because there's a lot going on. They're banning books and taking our history out of, it's just not a place that provides me with the level of ease, joy, and comfort and luxury that I am deserving of. So let's get into these pros. I think you can already feel the energy is pro-choice. And we all have choices, and I'm an advocate for going where you're treated best, going where you're most happy, going where you're most fulfilled. And for me, that is the continent of Africa. And luckily, I really get to spend a good amount of time in both South Africa and Tanzania, because that's the life that I choose. All right, so let's get into these pros: cultural immersion and exposure to new experiences. I talk so much on this channel about being able to immerse in this new culture that is family-centered, that is child-centered, that is woman-centered, that is spirit-centered. Yeah, like, that is so opposite of what exists in the country that I grew up in, America, at least during the time that I grew up, or the time that we're living right now. Mothers are revered here, children are honored here, and I love that. Also, the access to childcare and house help, like that's an experience that I would never have in America, as freely as it is available here, right? Did I have house helpers come every 2 weeks? Yeah. Did we have, live-in care? Not really. Childcare was so expensive, $2,000 a month for my youngest. That wasn't even including my oldest, right? What is that? That's crazy. That's like almost 40,000 Rand, probably 50,000 Rand a month, just for childcare for my infant at the time. So the accessibility to childcare and a culture that is centered in family, mothers and children, with an honoring of men and their necessity in the home, everything. Just, that's it. Drop the mic, right? That in itself is a reason to live on the continent of Africa. I think the next thing, the opportunity for personal and professional growth, having the level of ease that I experienced in Tanzania, being able to take a sabbatical for 2 years. For those who don't know, a sabbatical is essentially a break from work. They don't do that in America. What? Typically sabbaticals are for, old white men that are tenured at a university, right? You never hear black men talking about sabbaticals. Luckily, there are people in this internet space that are talking about it, that are encouraging black women to do it. I was listening to some of that content. Some of that content as I was on my sabbatical, but I hope that it's something that I'm sharing out there so people can get really familiar with, because it is such a amazing opportunity to really self-reflect, understand what's important to you, understand your values, understand how you want to experience life, because we got one of these, and I don't want to do it working myself into the ground and people pleasing and dealing with disrespect and toxic work environments for the majority of my life so that I can have a few years to chill or be degraded by a society that doesn't value elders. Right? So yeah, that personal growth, everything, the professional growth, I'd say I've opened and unlocked a different level of skill set, having an opportunity to live abroad. I've really been able to invest in myself, invest in my business, invest in, new values around being a professional woman, being an entrepreneur, being an investor, and things that I would have never considered if I hadn't moved abroad. So huge pro. Next, better quality of life and a lower cost of living. That's another mic drop. My life is so much better here on the continent. The cost of living, everything. Eggs in America are what, $8? Tell me in the comments. Leave me. I think I keep seeing this conversation around eggs being $8 for a dozen. I get a dozen and a half for $2.50 here in the US. What is that? I think like 50 Rand, 40 something Rand. That's just eggs, right? And I will say that food is a bit more expensive here in South Africa, I think because where I live is in the city. So I'm paying the price and the overhead of being in a grocery store, versus shopping at a market, where I'm sure I can, and I will, and I plan to find places where I can do a bit more bulk shopping. But my quality of life is immaculate. It's immaculate. Like, I don't know what to tell you. I go to the gym a few times a week. I'm in my mental health bag. My girls go to a private school, an African-centered private school. We have someone that helps around the house Monday through Friday. I can go out for cocktails. Well, I don't really drink, but more wine and a beautiful meal. I'm going for a spa date this week, in the middle of the week. Yes, Why not? So a better quality of life and a better cost of living, period. I think 90% of the world is less expensive than America. That's my number. I didn't come up with that. I mean, I came up with that. That's not research, but that's just my personal opinion. And quality, like, yeah, like who wants to walk around with a, pew pew all the time because you have to? Like, that's not living. It's just not. Fighting, feeling like you have to fight for your existence, feeling like you have to fight for your place, for your respect every day. Who wants to do that? Not me. Not with the one life that I've got. No, thank you. So another pro, a chance to learn new languages, right? So I must admit, I have been slacking on my studies of isiZulu. I'm slacking. I haven't even started, really. So that's on me. I'm still very much speaking Swahili. I speak to my friends that are in Tanzania, and I'm still on my habari dada, habari nzuri sana, what else? Of course, I can't just think of it right now, but I'm very much still in my Swahili bag, and so I hope to pick up Zulu very soon. But I mean, yeah, it's like African languages get in the bag. I'm trying to speak at least 3 by the end of this year. So if you know any, I know there's Duolingo, Zulu is on Duolingo, and I think I'm just gonna be like taking my daughter's lessons and reviewing them every day. That's like the easiest thing, I think. And it's hard trying to learn on YouTube because the clicking and the that's the hardest part. So maybe I should get a tutor. If somebody wants to offer some Zulu lessons, leave me a comment below, send me an email, just to make sure you're like a super safe, loving person. Maybe we can like do Zulu lessons every week and I can trade for some business strategy. I'm open for that. Leave me a comment below if that's something that you'd be interested in. Yeah, and with that, like making new personal and social connections. I am a lot more social than I have been in like, I'd say the last 5 years of my life now moving abroad, because you really have to. You have to put yourself outside of your box to meet new people. And I've met some amazing people at coffee shops, at restaurants when I go on solo dates, online. I'm meeting a lot of people at, professional events and people that I would have never met had I just stayed in America. People with brilliant stories, people with just an amazing hearts. I'm meeting some of the most just dynamic people that I'm grateful to build relationship with. And yeah, those are the pros. I can't really think of any cons, to be honest. I mean, I think for some people, they can struggle through the language and cultural barriers. I traveled a lot, so I was always very sensitive to different culture. And if you're not, like, you're gonna have to take that into consideration wherever you go. It's not America, and they're not gonna do things the way you're used to them being done, like in America. So you're gonna have to soften that expectation in order for your experience to be more favorable. I will say I did have some adjusting with like the weather, I did. That wasn't really, I feel like if I would have moved here from America, it probably wouldn't have been that drastic. But moving here from a tropical environment like Dar es Salaam, yeah, like it was a bit much for me. It was definitely a bit much. I will say there can be, some financial and logistical challenges in the beginning and ongoing, right? Like learning how the rental space works, how the banking system works, how paying utilities works, how getting a new cell phone, getting internet works, how paying for house help works. Those kind of, financial and logistical challenges are definitely a consideration, right? I wouldn't say a con, because critical thinking is a skill that should absolutely be harnessed and like worked on. And so if you're a critical thinker, you'll know that, yeah, this is different than where I've come from and there's a solution. So I've just got to figure it out. Right. I can see if you're older how that can be a bit more of a challenge, and if you're younger, it can come a lot easier. But those things do exist. Buying a car, you know, getting an ID, visa issues. Now, that's a real thing, you know, because that visa life can be interesting, especially if you're bopping around country to country, making sure that you're staying on top of your visa, that, you know, being valid, and, you know, knowing how to maneuver through that process. Huge consideration. But a con, no, not at all. I'd say maybe the biggest struggle for many people is going to be feeling homesick and that sense of isolation. I absolutely experienced this, and I think it's something that you experience ongoing, especially around big moments like birthdays or holidays or days of grief. You know, when you're in a new place and you know, are having reminiscent ideas or feelings, that homesickness and that isolation can be real, which is why the importance of having self-care and mental health support is really good to pull you out of that so you don't stay too deep in that. I'd say I give myself maybe like a day or two max to feel those feelings, and then I gotta get out of it, right? I gotta shake myself out of it, because at the end of it all, like, everything is working for my highest good, and people in my life are loving and supportive, and I'm attracting more loving and supportive people in my life, and I'm in a space where I am self-actualizing and in full gratitude. So that lower vibrational space isn't for me, right? Like, it's just not what I do really well. So if you have an interest, call me. If you have an interest in moving abroad, I'd love to support you on your journey. I help people with tools on how to do that adequately, because to be successful, you've got to research and prepare. And I've done a lot of the research for you if you're looking to move to South Africa or even Tanzania. I've done a lot of the research. I have tools, courses, and itineraries to help you navigate that system with a lot more ease. I also just help you and support you along the way. One of my clients reached out to me today and just sent me a text through WhatsApp around just some adjustments they're making. And I provide additional encouragement and support for you during our one-on-ones, you know, and I, you know, have also created a community, right, of expats and people that are making this journey, that have made this journey. That's called the Africa Investors Academy. And so if you're looking for that ongoing support, you can absolutely join us in the Africa Investors Academy. That link will be below. But if you'd like to just start off with maybe a one-on-one session for the month of March, I'm offering free courses to every one-on-one consultation, whether that be the expat expense, which is the ultimate financial blueprint to moving abroad, or the expat prep guide, if you have children or not, to help you kind of have some kind of planning tools to be a bit more effective in your preparation and planning. So I hope this video was helpful. If it was, please be sure to like it, share it with someone below, and subscribe to the channel. I'd love to have you in the community ongoing. And until the next video, I'll see you soon.